Good morning, children. How are you? In the previous classes, we have learned that the fundamental unit of life, that is cell and tissues. So, what is cell? As we know that cell is the basic structural and functional unit of living organisms. Right? So, cell has to be alive to perform many activities and function. Already we know that grouping of cells together to form a tissue. Okay, there is a branch in biology to study about tissue, that is called as histology. There are two types of tissues. One is plant tissues and animal tissues. Based on the structure and function, plant tissues are classified into again two categories. One is meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. What are meristematic tissue? So meristematic tissues are the dividing tissues. Based on the location, we are going to classify apical meristem, lateral meristem, intercalary meristem, right? So already we know that cells formed by the meristematic tissues take up special role and lose the ability to divide. Now they become permanent tissues. Clear? The process of taking permanent shape, the process of taking up a permanent shape, size and a common function, this process is called it as differentiation. This process is called it as differentiation, children. So meristematic tissue, once they lose the ability to divide, to become a permanent tissue. That means, children, what we are going to learn, permanent tissues, they are basically origin from the meristematic tissues. Okay, so meristematic tissue, once at a particular stage they started to lose the ability to divide. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ ಮೆರಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಟಿಶ್ಯೂ ಮೆಚೂರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಏನನ್ನು ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಆಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿನ ಕಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಇಟ್ ಲಾಸಸ್ ದ ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿ to divide. ಆಗೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, that meristematic tissues converted into special types of tissues. They have a common structure, they have a group of cells, they perform their own function. They are called it as permanent tissues. Don't get confused, children. Meristematic tissues are later on, so they converted into permanent tissues. That means the process of taking up a permanent by the shape, size and function, they are called it as differentiation. Clear? Permanent tissues are origin or derived from the meristematic tissue. When? So once they lose the ability to divide. I hope understand, children. Next one is, let us understand the simple permanent tissue, children. That means, so meristematic tissues are again classified into apical meristem, you know that, lateral meristem, you know, and intercalary meristem. Based on two types plant tissues, one is meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. Permanent tissue, simple permanent tissues and complex permanent tissues. What are permanent tissues? Already you know that meristematic tissues are changes at the time of when they lose the division, they changes into permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are again classified into two types. One is simple permanent tissues, another one is complex permanent tissues, children. So here observe this slide, children. These are the plant tissues. One is, this is the simple permanent tissues, another one is a complex permanent tissues. What do you understand between these two, madam? Simple permanent tissues are the same, they made up of, they are very simple. They are made up of one type of cells. What about the complex permanent tissue, purple color you are observing? No, they are made up of more than one kind of cells, like elements and compounds. Understand, children? The plant tissues are again classified into simple permanent tissue. Another one is complex permanent tissues. I hope understand, children. So, okay, now we can move on to the what are simple permanent tissues, what are the different types of simple permanent tissues. Okay, children. So let us understand what are simple permanent tissues. These are the permanent tissues made up of one kind of cells. They look like each other. They look like each other, right? And they perform same function. Based on that, because of this reason, they are called it as simple permanent tissues. Clear? What are the simple permanent tissues? So now let us understand. One is parenchyma, children. So what are the classification of simple permanent tissue? Understand. One is parenchyma. Clear? See here. Next one is one more collenchyma. What are the simple permanent tissues? One is parenchyma, children. Another one is collenchyma. Okay. And one more is sclerenchyma. I hope understand, children. See here. Permanent tissues are classified into simple permanent tissues and complex permanent tissues. What are simple permanent tissue? First one is parenchyma. Okay. And collenchyma. Another one is sclerenchyma. These are the three different types of permanent tissues. Permanent, simple tissues. What is the difference between simple and complex? Simple permanent tissues are the tissues. They are made up of same structures and same function, same kind of cells. Very, very important. What about complex permanent tissues? They are made up of different kinds of they are made up of different kinds of cells. I hope understand, children. Let us understand about parenchyma. Clear? What are parenchyma? First point you have to say parenchyma. These are the simple, very, very important. Simple, living. They are living in nature. And they allows for mechanical support. They allows for mechanical support. Parenchyma. Observe carefully, children. These are the simple, living, mechanical tissue. Observe this slide, children. So plant is made up of plants are or plant cell is covered by cell wall. Observe the cell wall. Cell wall is very thin. Observe the cell wall. Cell wall is very thin. These are the simple living mechanical tissue consists of thin cell wall. They are also called it as packing tissues. They are arranged very loosely, children. They are arranged very loosely. Okay, and more intercellular spaces. 3 points to be observed in parenchyma. One is they are simple, living, mechanical tissue. Clear? Simple, living, mechanical tissue. And cell wall is very thin. Cell wall is very thin and presence of more intercellular spaces. When we are studying atom, so in solids the intermolecular force we are talking, that is intermolecules with respect to chemistry. Here we are talking about intercellular spaces. Observe carefully. Clear? And so what is the main function of parenchyma? They allows for mechanical support. And also observe special type of parenchyma cells, children. They are called it as chlorenchyma, not collenchyma. Observe the spelling. Chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma is a type of parenchyma. Okay, and they helps for these chlorenchyma helps for storage of food, children. Understand? So and very important, children. What are the subclasses of parenchyma? So one is chlorenchyma. Where do we find chlorenchyma? In the leaf region. Where do we find? So chloroplast. Leaves are green in color. In chloroplast. So what is the main function of leaf, you say, children? Yes, leaf is for the preparation of food. Then what is the main function of chlorenchyma? Chlorenchyma present in the leaves, it helps for storage of food. I hope understand about the chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma is nothing but they are the different types of parenchyma cells. They helps for the storing of food, children. This is another important simple permanent tissue in the parenchyma, aerenchyma, children. Based on the structure, okay, arrangement of loose cellular space is more because of more large air cavities present in the parenchyma. They are also parenchyma cells only. Because of large air cavities, they allows for what is that one? Floating. So in aquatic plants like what? Lily, lotus, we can find what type of, why the lilies or lotus are floating? Aquatic plants, because of large cavities. What do we call for such a type of tissues, ma? Aerenchyma. Parenchyma, again two types. One is what is that one, children? Chlorenchyma. Another one is Aerenchyma. So simple permanent tissue ನಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾರೆಂಕೈಮ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ. ಪ್ಯಾರೆಂಕೈಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲೋರಂಕೈಮ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಏನಪ್ಪ? ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಫುಡ್. ಎರಡನೇದೇನು ಮಕ್ಕಳ? ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಸ್ ಟು aquatic plants for large cavity, else for floating of the plants. Clear? Another important tissue, cholenchyma, which is the second simple permanent tissue. Tell me, observe this slide, ma. Cholenchyma. Cholenchyma is a simple permanent tissue. Clear? What is cholenchyma? Cholenchyma is a simple living permanent tissues. Clear? What do you notice from this diagram and this diagram? This is parenchyma. Observe the thin cell wall. What about this cholenchyma? See, thickenings, red corners are very thick. Clear? See here, it tells for easy bending. See, what is the main function of cholenchyma, you know? So because of what is that one, bending property, because of this presence of cholenchyma, children, so these helps for easy bending of various part of the plant without breaking. So suppose wind is blowing, imagine the plant will not break immediately. Why? Because this cholenchyma helps for mechanical support to the different parts of the plant body like leaf and all without breaking. Then what is the main role of this one cholenchyma? It helps for mechanical support, children. Don't forget it. Then where do we find, ma'am? These tissues mainly found in leaf. Petiole means, what is that one? Stalk of the leaf is called petiole. So what are the structure, ma'am? So they are elongated thickenings at the corner. See, observe that. And intercellular space is less. ಸೆಲ್ ಮಧ್ಯ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೇನಂತಾರೆ ಇಂಟರ್ಸೆಲ್ಯುಲಾರ್ ಸ್ಪೇಸು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ. ಆದರೆ ಪ್ಯಾರೆಂಕೈಮಾಗೇನಿದೆ? ಇಂಟರ್ಸೆಲ್ಯುಲಾರ್ ಸ್ಪೇಸು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಥಿನ್ ಸೆಲ್ ವಾಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಥಿಕ್ ಸೆಲ್ ವಾಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ thickenings at the corners. This is very, very important about the cholenchyma. Clear, children? So they are elongated, thickening at the corner, no intercellular spaces. One more simple permanent tissues. See here. What is that one? What is the main function, children? So the main function is mechanical support and also flexibility. Because of this only, flexibility. And very, see here, ಪರ್ಮನೆಂಟ್ ಟಿಶ್ಯೂಸಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾರೆಂಕೈಮಾ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿತು ನಿಮಗೆ, ಕೋಲಂಕೈಮಾ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿತು. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಉಳಿದಿರೋದು ಯಾವುದು ಮಕ್ಕಳ? ಸ್ಕ್ಲೀರೆಂಕೈಮಾ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ಸ್ಕ್ಲೀರೆಂಕೈಮಾ? ದೇ ಆರ್, ಸಿ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್, what is that one? Parenchyma or cholenchyma, they are living tissue, mechanical tissues. Okay, they are for storage of food and else for floating purpose. Cholenchyma, they are for mechanical support. What about sclerenchyma, ma'am? So sclerenchyma is a, what is that one? Sclerenchyma, tell me. It is a type of simple permanent tissue. Clear, children? So it is a tissue which makes the plant hard and stiff. What is that one? It makes the plant hard and stiff. You might have observed that, what is that one? Husk of the coconut. ತೆಂಗಿನಕಾಯಿ ಚಿಪ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಮಕ್ಕಳ? ಭಾಳ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ವೇನ್ರೋ? ಇಲ್ಲ, ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ? ಹಾರ್ಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ತೆಂಗಿನಕಾಯಿ ಚಿಪ್ ಹಾರ್ಡ್ ಇದೆಯಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಕ್ಲೀರೆಂಕೈಮಾ. ನೋಡಿ, ಪ್ಯಾರೆಂಕೈಮಾ, ಕೋಲಂಕೈಮಾ ಇವು ಲಿವಿಂಗು. ಆದರೆ ಈ ಸ್ಕ್ಲೀರೆಂಕೈಮಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳ, ಅದು ಡೆಡ್. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಟಿಶ್ಯೂ ವಿಚ್ ಮೇಕ್ ದ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಹಾರ್ಡ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸ್ಟಿಫ್. I think you might have seen that. What is that one? Husk of the coconut. It is very hard. Why the coconut shell is hard? Because it is made up of sclerenchyma cells or tissues. Clear? There are long and narrow. What is that one? The walls are very, very thick. Why? Because, see, why? Because the presence of hardened. Why it is hard? because of the presence of deposition of chemical that is called it as children lignin. Very important. The cell wall of the sclerenchyma tissue made up of lignin, just like a cement. What is the main function of cement, you tell me? It gives hardness to the plant, hardness to the building. In the similar way, so lignin helps for what is that one? Hardening of the plant body. Where do we find, children? We can find in the coconut shell. Clear? Walnut, nuts, seeds and nuts. Okay, see, that's all about the what is that one? Different simple permanent tissue. In this class I have explained only what are that one. Once again I would like to recall permanent tissues. So plant first tissues andre gottayitu, group of cells having common structure and function. Okay, study of tissue is called as histology. Clear? What are the permanent tissues? When the meristematic tissue, when loses its ability, it changes into permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are classified into, children, simple permanent tissues and complex permanent. What are the simple permanent tissues, children? Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. What are parenchyma? Characteristics: living cells with thin cell wall, large intercellular spaces. What about collenchyma? Elongated living cells, irregularly thick cell wall and intercellular spaces. What about this sclerenchyma? This is dead. Both are living. Clear? Next one is sclerenchyma. That's all about the. So only I have covered only the simple permanent tissue, children. Please note down this diagram in your classwork and write this chart, children. Very, very important. So after opening, definitely I am going to ask you, please complete your classwork. Clear? Thank you, children.